All right, so the next panel discussion, you see the title here, You Can See What You Can Be. And I'm gonna introduce someone to the stage that really needs no introduction. But let me just say something about you can see what you can be. There's this principle that if you can't see it, you can't be it. That you have to see it on the inside before it will ever manifest on the outside. And so it is critical that you see someone that looks like you or sounds like you or has a last name like yours, somebody that you can identify with that's operating on the level that you aspire to attain. That person can inspire you in ways that is hard to verbalize. So to have a discussion around this, I want to bring to the stage none other than the chair of high tech and also a person that has poured into the lives of so many, Mr. Guillermo Diaz, the man that we call G. Put your hands together. Fuerte aplauso. Fuerte aplauso para G. All right.
Okay, please join me, Isaura, Katy. How are we doing? Do we have any Latino music back there? Do we have any Latino music back there? Uh-oh, uh-oh. Wait a minute.
Buscando como un loco por el mundo y sin ti ya no aguanto un segundo. Alguien venga, dígamelo ya si la han visto por aquí o la han visto por allá. Porque la busco, yo la busco, no la encuentro. Ya yo quiero que llegue ese momento en que yo le pueda decir que sin ti mi vida no puedo vivir. Porque yo quiero que tú vuelvas a mí, que me des un cariñito, mi amor.
All right, I think we got it. We got it. We're ready? We're ready? All right. See, you could see what you could be, right? Wow. So that was a great panel just before, so the CTO of Worldwide, Mike Taylor and I go back probably 2 decades as well. We grew up in the CIO, CTO world together, so it was great to see him and great to see everyone. That was a great panel, but we're going to take it up a whole nother level right now. Right? We're going to take this up with a whole nother level with these amazing humans, these amazing Latinas, amazing leaders that I've had the opportunity to work with and be around for quite a long time. And this notion of you can see what you can be. Or, said differently, you can be what you can see. And this is one of the things that I think that if we're honest, you know, I'm just use myself as an example. You know, when I was in I grew up in Pueblo, Colorado, and I went to the U.S. Navy because we didn't have a lot of money to go to school. And so that's how I was going to get my degree. But I didn't see anybody because there was no one in my family that had a degree before me. And so I couldn't see that. Not that my family wasn't, you know, everybody's intelligent, but I just didn't see it. When I got out of the Navy as a technologist, I landed in this place called Silicon Valley with this technology background, and I still didn't see what I could be. So I vowed at that moment, I knew what it felt like to not have those role models. And I vowed that I wanted to make a difference, that I was going to try to be what someone behind me could see, and hopefully blaze a trail. And this is what, you know, that's a story about me, but this is really the story about these two amazing women, Isaura Guetta and Katy Colson, that I've known for quite some time. But I'll let you introduce yourself. But Isaura, if you can maybe start with your kind of where you came from and a little bit about your journey. Maybe you could start.
Yeah, thank you, G. So starting at the beginning, I was born in Chicago. And I didn't learn to speak English until I started elementary school. And there's a lot of barrios in Chicago where you don't have to speak English. And starting in grade school, I really gravitated toward math because it didn't matter that I didn't speak English. And so all my elementary and all the way through high school, loved math and science. I ended up attending Stanford University studying electrical engineering. I received a bachelor's and a master's. And in that time, I learned about semiconductor processing, working in a fab, creating silicon wafers. Those are basically the building blocks that go into microprocessors. Loved it. And ready to go out, conquer the world, joined a company, and they didn't know what to do with this, 5-foot-tall Latina. Tried to speak up in meetings and didn't get attention. They were not used to hearing from, and so had to find a way to be successful. This is 40 years ago. I've been in the industry for 40 years. And hopefully today we can uncover some of the
So you started when you were like 2 years old or something, or?
Child prodigy, yeah. No, it's been a wonderful ride. I've been at Intel Corporation now for 38 years. Done 4 different career transitions.
Where's that? What amazing, yeah.
And currently I am the Vice President of Security Research. I have a team of hackers. We try to break our products. My team is located all over the world, and I can't tell you any more than what I've already told you about that.
So Kathy, how about your?
Well, my story is a bit different than you, though we converge in many points. I'm Mexican, born in Mexico, educated there. I even started working there in an internship for General Electric in Monterrey, if you're familiar with Mexico. Life had it that I went to a funeral and met my soon-to-be husband there, who is from California. I moved to California after we get married, and I find myself as a 20-year-old trying to find a job that nobody wanted to give me. They didn't care that I went to college, that I speak multiple languages, that I had worked for a big company. And the first job that I was given was as a receptionist for a law office in San Mateo, California. And it was wonderful because it was my first step into the workplace in the US. It was great. The lawyer was wonderful until the second lawyer showed up. She was not nice. She told me that I was not allowed to speak and that I was only here to make copies. And I went home crying. And my husband said, you should not let anybody treat you like that. You go back tomorrow and you quit. So I went there the next day and I quit, crying. I think it's the only time I cried at the office. And then I found myself trying to find another job. The next job I found was option number 2. Literally, welcome to Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Para español, presione el número 2. I was number 2. Maybe I still am. Just check it out. Yes.
So you're that voice.
Yes. Yes. Somebody has to do that, right?
No wonder I'm very familiar with that. Like,
I go to a startup after that in the Silicon Valley, the land of startups. Mine contracted 25 times. 25. I was running out of luck. And I remember praying, saying, God, please, I just need one opportunity. I just need my foot in the door. And Cisco came along with a 3-month contract. And I said, this is going to be the best 3 months this company has ever seen. I get those 3 months, and I get pregnant with my second son at the same time. And I'm just there. 9 months later, my boss says, I want to give you a full-time offer, and I want to hire you as a manager. Go have your baby and come back. I went back at 6 weeks. Couldn't even walk. Michael was tiny. And my husband said, you got the offer. Now you have to make a decision. Are you going to take a job, or are you going to start a career? And I chose a career. And it started with almost 15 years at Cisco Systems, where I met Guillermo and many more people at Conexión. And 3 years ago, I made the change and took a risk and moved to Oracle NetSuite as vice president of IT. I'm shaking because it's incredible. It's incredible to be here with all of you. And it's incredible to be here because I said one day I'm going to be on stage. And I'm happy to share my story with you. Thank you.
So Isaura, back to you. 38 years, wow, what an amazing run. But, you know, you've had a great career, but also, you know, everybody has a story. But there's a story behind the story, right? So if we dig a little bit, if we have real talk, let's have some real talk.
All right.
Let's roll up our sleeves and have some real talk.
Let's talk.
So what is the story behind the story? What is this, Isaura? Why 38 years? What drives you to put your boots on, literally
Yep.
put your boots on every day and come to work for 38 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, when I first started at Intel, I really love technology. I really love the concept of what we do because the technology really helps make people's lives better. But getting accepted into sort of an all-male career area of focus was really difficult. And so I looked around and tried to figure out, how do I fit in? How do I get things done? And in semiconductor processing, you work in this very large facility, fabrication area, and lots of equipment. The technicians who run the equipment, maintain the equipment, load the wafers, at that time were mostly Latina and Filipinas. And so I got to know them, and after time, they recommended, when I ran experiments, because my job was R&D, and they would make sure that my experiments ran on the best tools, that they gave priority to my work. And so I was producing amazing results because I had the whole team behind me, rooting for me to make sure that, you know, when I produced something, that it would be good stuff. And so they're really the unsung heroes of Silicon Valley. Right now, you don't hear a lot about, you hear about the Hewlett and Packard and, Gordon Moore, but the technicians in the fab that were day in, day out, loading the wafers, those ended up being my greatest allies. And as a result, producing the results, people said, wow, she's getting amazing results. At Intel, I was promoted in less than a year from when I was hired. The man that hired me became my peer, and then I became his boss the next year after that, just because of the results I was producing. The other great thing about a company that big is you can shift careers. So I worked in semiconductor processing. I loved it. Going in the fab, you wear the bunny suit, you do experiments. Some of them work, some of them don't work. It's all learning. But it's very expensive to do semiconductor processing, especially in the Silicon Valley. At one point, my company decided we're not going to do manufacturing in Silicon Valley anymore. I was offered a job to move to China, where we were starting a fab. I happened to have 3 kids in school at that time. They said, no, Mommy, we're not going. My husband also didn't want to go. So I had to shift. And at Intel, I've done hardware, and now I do security. And so reinventing yourself is another thing that, growing up in the Latino culture, I saw in my parents that resilience. If that door wasn't open, you find another door. And so the same thing I applied to my career. If there's going to be a shift, let me try something different and just give it my all and lean in. And that's worked for me really well. So it hasn't been easy. And
Right.
it's not like it was an overnight success to get to vice president, but
Right.
having the guidance,
And at a Fortune,
50
company, right? I mean, come on, a Fortune 50 company, that's major. But what I heard you say, though, is you had a whole team behind you. People that were, if you looked at your org chart, they were not on your org chart,
That's right.
right? So your your ability to connect, your ability to influence your Latinidad, your, you know, I heard you say earlier, what you know, what's this 5-foot Latina doing, you know, but you were able to get the best out of people because of, you know, who you are. You're able to network and connect with people. I mean, that's just one of the things that I've always known about you, and what you're able to bring lots of people along, and they wanted to make sure that you were vice president one day, right? And so that's, but you didn't have, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but you didn't have that person before you. You had to kind of network above as well, right? And how did you do that, right?
Yeah, you know, there's nobody in my family that I could talk to and, you know, over dinner and say, well, what do you do in this kind of situation where you're going to be presenting to, you know, the next level manager? We didn't have those kind of talks when I was growing up. And so other Latinos, there weren't very many Latinos at that time. You know, it's just groups, maybe through Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, where you'd meet someone at another company and use that opportunity to kind of brainstorm and share notes and things like that, to give you that reinforcement, that, you know, go in and again and ask for what you deserve, ask for those opportunities, or, you know, really just, I'm the kind of person that I always raise my hand when there's a really difficult problem at work. And if you solve that kind of problem, then you get the recognition of you could solve tough problems. There's some people that shy away from the tough problems, but I tend to lean in.
Yeah.
And so that and that gave you exposure to the senior management, and then they start putting you on projects because they know you're going to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So that's how I did it.
Yeah. No. It definitely shows. So, Kati, was there a moment where you could actually see what you could be, or, you know, was it you had to persevere without a guidepost?
There are a few moments, and I think if I summarize in a few words, is grit and belief, and also even love. You know, with grit, I've always done sports, and it's very clear when you win. You just have more points. It's not that you did your best, or you had the best effort, or you tried. You either win or win. You either score or get the points, or you don't win. So I think the workplace is like that. You have to deliver results. It's not good enough to just try really hard. You really have to deliver. So grit has always carried me through, but it's not enough. I remember when I moved at Cisco from advanced services to IT, I took a chance and moved from being a manager to an individual contributor while 8 months pregnant with my third kid. And I remember walking on the hallways feeling pretty bad. And you remember this because you were there. I was thinking, how am I going to pull this off? And, you know, I'm meeting all these people, and I'm leaving in 3 weeks. And then I'm going on maternity leave. And the vice president was on that hallway I was walking and says, come in. That vice president is Guillermo Diaz, who at the time was VP of IT. And he asked me, do you know why you're here? And I said, yes, I'm here to work. He said, no. You're here because you have talent. Now you go back and have your baby, and when you're ready, we'll be here waiting for you. So it's not... And it is so true, because it's not just greed. You need that deeper belief that you can. And sometimes I couldn't see it in myself, but he saw it and he took the time to say it, and it just propelled me to have that higher level of confidence. So those are the moments. Maybe it's not a situation at work, but those life-changing events that help you believe that you really can. And the last piece is really my husband, because I couldn't be here right now, sitting here, if he wasn't helping me with the 3 kids that we have, right? And love is sacrifice, and it's compromise, and he's doing that right now, and he did the same when I went back to school. We live in California. I went to the East Coast, and he was working, and he was being mom and dad. So I think grit belief, and love is what has gotten me here.
And by the way, just so you know, Kati's a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. So just make sure you don't mess with her too much, okay? So maybe what is a technique that you use? And you obviously talked about your connection with people, but like as you're like now, you didn't see that guidepost. Maybe there was a few, but now you have the opportunity to pull up. So what is your technique? What is your advice on how you want to raise that next generation? Because I know you do a lot in that space, Isaura.
So if I look at how I tend to operate, I think it's more the servant leadership model, where I'm there to help my team, to help others develop. And by doing that, it creates this really nice trust, because they see that I'm invested in them, and then they respond in terms of helping our team be successful. And so that helps to create those next leaders, and they come back or they'll continue to advocate for either my group or myself. So it's a wonderful legacy, creating people that you've helped to bring along the way. But I think you're sort of hinting at something deeper, which is community. And I am very fortunate having the opportunity to attend Stanford and to study electrical engineering and graduate and be working in the world now. It could have been very different for me, because my parents didn't even complete high school. So many kids out there don't have the opportunities that I have. So I feel compelled. I'm actually on the board of a nonprofit, the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley, where we try to provide educational opportunities to Latino youth, all the way from like kindergarten all the way through university, specifically to try to get them into tech careers. And that inspires me, and that keeps me going, because it's that next generation that I was able to get this far, and by creating more level playing field, that next generation will just keep standing on our shoulders and keep going further and further. And to me, that is why I get up every day and keep going, because it's giving back. That means a lot to me.
Awesome. So Kati, one of the things I remember in about 2013 or so, I had this boss called Randy Pond, and Randy said, "Hey, gee, I have a opportunity for you." I'm like, "Oh shit." He's like, "There's this school. This school is it's mostly Latinos, and I think you're the guy to help out here." And so what we found out is this school being developed called Cristo Rey. And in Cristo Rey is a work-study program where we bring students onto the campus, and they get to get exposure. They get exposure, they get experience. They're obviously getting educated, and then ultimately through their work, they're employed. So what do? Is I go, "Hey, Kati, I have an opportunity for you." But Kati, when we brought those students on, we thought we were going to change their lives. But
They changed ours.
Can you say?
So Guillermo Colson says, "Great news. We're doing this initiative. It's an internship." And in my mind, I'm thinking, summer internship? Of course, how hard can that be? No. This is an internship that begins in August and ends in June, the following year. And then you keep that going their entire years of high school, right? And these are kids that, as Isaura said, there are no role models. So the accountability and the responsibility is huge. And we say, we're going to go for it. We're going to commit. And we get 4 kids. And by, 4 years, we have 16. But what happened is you get these very young 14-year-olds, insecure, just trying to figure out how to fit in. And what you see happening, it's culture. It's people coming together, really wanting them to succeed. And we all embrace that. And I remember calling G for things. I would take them for lunch and the cafeteria, but it's those always conversations that said, you know, what do you want for Christmas? And one of them would tell me, you know, I really want new shoes. I have shoes, but never in my life have I ever had a new pair of shoes. Have you ever had a new pair of shoes? It's like, we don't even think of it, right? Or somebody came to my school and talked about the possibility of having summer camp at Harvard. Remember that? You want to share a bit how that unfolded?
Yeah. We had a young lady that got into the summer camp at Harvard from Cristo Rey. And what we found was that, you know, actually high tech helped her pay for that summer. But her father wasn't going to let her go to the East Coast. So Kati, we had to talk to the father.
You talked to the father, I talked to the father, we put people to talk to the father until everybody said, no more talking to the father, right? She ended up going, everybody graduated. We have kids now graduating from Santa Clara University, from Cornell, San Francisco State University, and more and more is coming.
So this young lady that we just talked about, she had a full ride scholarship to Cornell University. And just in December, she graduated from Cornell and already had an offer from PepsiCo in her hand when she graduated, right? Yeah. So we talk about you think you changed the lives, but in many ways, it changed your life. And in Isaura, back to you is like what, so if you live your life by a mantra, like for me, I always say, my grandma always said, someone's going to change the world, why not you? So every time I think about that I can't do something, I always think about that. What do you think about?
So being in the tech industry and working at a company like Intel, where we make CPUs, my mantra actually is CPU. And that stands for commit, persist, and unite. Commit. Commit to be your best self every day. Show up, put in that effort. Persist. Persist despite setbacks, because there's going to be a lot of setbacks. And then unite, because you can't do it alone. So that's my CPU advice.
CPU, wow, that's awesome.
Right.
Kati, what's your mantra?
Well, I spoke about grit, spoke about belief, spoke about love. One other mantra is don't get jealous, get inspired, right? Because we're all in this together. We move at different paces. Don't get jealous. Get inspired of your success and your success and your success, because if we help each other, we will all progress.
Yeah. Wow, okay. So I think, so maybe this is a good time. Are there any questions, any comments, any thoughts? Anybody want to give their mantra on the mic? Do we need to start the Latino dance again? Can you?
Sira Denny, Schneider Electric from the Boogie Down Bronx, New York City. My mantra is the depth of your struggle will determine the height of your success. So that comes from my background. My dad and my mom are both ex-heroin addicts. So I grew up in a very drug-ridden household. And so it's very hard to be different when everything that you see kind of sets a ceiling for you. So finding the courage to be able to tell that story is something that the High Tech EEP program actually helped me do. So that's
All right. Okay, we have some from Anyone else in the room while we're, okay, we're getting some from the online here, it looks like. I know you guys have some good mantras, so you better be thinking about it, or I'm going to just call on you all.
So Claudia Ramirez, one of our virtual attendees, is asking, many times the big companies focus their recruitment effort to bring people from Ivy League or other top universities, leaving behind those that couldn't go to those universities, not because they're not talented or capable, but because they didn't have the resources or support needed, so they went to community college. How do you work within your companies to reach out to those talented people and give them the opportunity to excel within a company?
Isaura?
Yeah. So actually, I have a program that we started right now. Because I mentioned my team currently are a bunch of hackers, we call them actually security researchers. But
They're security researchers, I like
yes,
that.
there are very few females in security research. So we created this program called a research educational opportunity at the university. And the students can be from any university. They apply for a summer internship with selected universities. We've partnered with Princeton and with Georgia Tech. But the students can come from anywhere. And what we do is
Could they come from community college?
community college, yeah. And we pick rising juniors. So they're very young, early in their career. We try to, and it's mostly Latinx, female, and African American students that we select. But we partner with an Intel mentor who's in security research and a university professor, junior professor, and get them excited about the field of security, and little by little bring them back the next summer, do a little bit more. Our goal is, first of all, inspire the students to go to grad school, because that would be a huge win if they go on and get a master's or PhD. Inspire them to think about security and go out either into the workforce. If they come to Intel, that's great, but they may not choose Intel, that's fine too. Or go into academia, where they could be professors. And so that's a program that we've created for outreach to historically underrepresented field like security research with, try to diversify it more. But you have to look beyond the university. I mean, as I mentioned, I was fortunate to go to Stanford, but I know there are a lot of great students that don't have that opportunity. And so looking at the talent, looking at the resumes, or just speaking with students without having the bias of the university when you make your selection.
Kati, very quickly, how about yours?
Just participating in events like this, networking, really reaching out and tapping into your ERGs. I think the ERGs are very well connected. They really have very strong, diverse backgrounds, and by their passion, they have connections. And at the moment of recruiting and interviewing, really expecting from the recruiting team that diversity of candidates that is presented to you.
So I think we're out of time. So I really thank you, but I want to kind of end on a sort of a call to action. The call to action is like you could see what you could be, or you could be what you could see. And the call to action is be that person that next generation wants to be and wants to see. And that's what I would say this room has a big opportunity, and I would say a big responsibility. Because with power, you all have power, and you all have privilege because you've earned it. Not because it was given to you, because you've earned the privilege. So with power comes great responsibility, according to the great philosopher Spider-Man. But I would just say, be that person that can be seen. And I want to thank you, Isaura. I want to thank you for being such an inspiration to the community. For since you were 2 years old, and you've been, we've worked. We don't always get to work together daily, but I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by she just got on a newly appointed board member of a large bank in Minnesota, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Right? And Kati, you know, we've been through a lot of things together, and there's nobody I would rather have by my side in doing that. And you've been an inspiration. You've been what you've left behind with many, you know, not just employees but students, and you will probably never understand the impact that you've made. So I want to thank you. Thank you all, and thank you all for having us.